And the number one thing that I am asked on a daily basis is, what is the market doing? It's the newest set of slides that I have. I'm not here to convince you whether or not there's a crash or a market correction. I'm not here to convince you that there are going to be more people in default than we have seen in close to a decade. Okay, literally a decade since we've seen this many people in default. I want you guys, like a jury, start from the position of not guilty. What I'd like all of you to do, if this is fair, I would like all of you to believe that the market is completely healthy, that prices will keep appreciating, that sales will continue to appreciate, that it won't end. The roller coaster that we're currently on that is taking us to the sky is not a bubble. Is that fair for everybody that's here on the call? That's your job. Your job is for me to submit proof to give you beyond a reasonable doubt two things. One, the prices are going to correct and in some markets crash. And number two, that there will be millions upon millions of people that are going to need to sell their house. That's the reason you're on this call. You want to learn those dynamics. So let's talk about what's happening in the market right now, real time, in the news. Feel free to Google it, just like I did. You can look up all the same numbers. The first thing that I'm keeping track of right now is this 66% rule. So they recently ran a survey of consumers, and they asked if now was the right time to buy a house. 66% of the people who responded said no, now is not the right time to buy. So let's use that as our baseline number, right? 66%. Now, this doesn't include investors, right? Because they're the primary drivers of the market. For those of you who don't understand what an asset manager's job is, let me explain at the moment and why I pull the data that I pull. It is my job to protect a bank's assets, to get them a fully extracted return when a loan defaults. A loan defaults at 31 days at 5 p.m. Is there a correction rate between 31 days and 91 days? Yes, there is. But at 91 days, that is the number that I most often look at. And that is the most important number because 8 out of 10 of those people are never going to make another payment again. Make sense for everybody? So I'm going to look at this just like I would at my own desk. I'm not going to tell you things I think. I'm going to tell you things I know. What I know right now, let's just go with 60%. We'll round down, even though I could easily round up, and say that 6 out of 10 people believe now is not the right time to buy. Would we not all agree on that? Right? So now non-investors are down to about a 40% crowd. Got it? I'm not going to go into prices being too high. I'm not going to go into any of that. I just want you to see the direction of the market data. The second is this. This came out by the National Association of Realtors about a week ago. I've been using it on most of my coaching calls. What I really want you to focus on is the median home price that they have remarkably kept an eye on here over the last few months. This is a big deal, okay? They tracked it all the way up until September. So September, October, and November. We're into our third month of straight depreciation. We are currently depreciating at a rate of 2.75%, period. Not year over year, not month over month. We're talking just a straight line approach. So if I was sitting at a bank desk and I was handed a file with somebody who was in default that wanted to sell their house, take the word short sale out of your mind. People have equity, but it still has to be approved by a bank, especially if it's in default. To get it out of default and into escrow, you're going to need someone at the bank to approve it, right? So what I need to look at is a straight line depreciation method of 2.75%. I know from the point I get the file or your request that it will take 6 months to a year before that asset will be returned to the bank, the house, right? So I can look at a straight line depreciation. Banks don't go by market to market. We use something called OFIO data, which does it by region, which is still not that accurate. The way the banks prefer to do it that I've worked for as an executive, as an asset manager, We like to look at a straight line approach. And the straight line approach right now is a depreciation of 2.75%. Everybody got that? Write it down. Feel free to use it. And feel free to use this slide. I'm going to give you guys a link in a minute. You can go download this slide as well as this PowerPoint, as well as the marketing pieces and everything I talk about on today's call. So we're depreciating at 2.75%. I've got to carry this house for 6 months to a year before I will get it, especially with the backlog of evictions that are going on. So the question is, doing the deal today at today's value as compared to 6 months or a year from today at a depreciation rate of 2.75%. By the way, that's happening monthly, not annually. That's a pretty dramatic number. Doesn't make more sense to do the deal right now. From a bank's perspective, this is very troublesome. Month over month, maybe not so much, because if you look historically, every month it kind of corrects itself. We're at 3 months of non-correction and of a straight line depreciation. Everybody understand that? So 6 out of 10 people don't want to buy. I get it. They're not investors. You might still be on the fence. We've had month over month over month of depreciation at 2.75% per month. Maybe maybe we could drop the interest rates to 2%, and that will stimulate people buying and jive to bend the home appreciation rate up. Okay. I hear you. I mentally feel your thought bubbles flying at me. Let's go to the next one, right? Buyers are saying that they're 30%. We've lost 30% in the third quarter, and we're going to lose another 30% in the fourth quarter is what the speculation is. But they released numbers on Redfin. What you're looking at is an article on Redfin from the end of October that less people are moving and relocating. It's down by 30% quarter over quarter. That's bad, right? So now relocation and pricing have gone completely out of whack. Now, again, going back to our original figure of 6 out of 10 people don't want to buy because now's not the right time to buy. We're showing depreciation in the market, and now 30% less people are relocating to areas. Now, I don't know if that necessarily increases or decreases the number of people, but if you're asking me as a guy who's got to make a decision on a file, not what I think, what do I know? I'm looking at a situation where people don't want to buy at today's prices, okay? And I'm looking at overwhelming evidence to support that. Why people in real estate, specifically agents and investors, want to believe that the market's going to keep appreciating is the part that I find more troublesome than anything else, which takes us to the next piece, and that's last week and Zillow, right? So there is a split decision on Zillow happening in the market. Those that are clicking their heels and believe that the market's okay and Zillow is run by idiots. Exact words that I've read in an article. Zillow is run by idiots, an $8 billion company. They are completely out of whack, and they've overpurchased, and they have to lay off staff because they bought too much property, which, by the way, doesn't make sense at all. If property was still appreciating at an unbelievable rate, it doesn't matter what Zillow buys it at. Then you can go with the foil hat theory that Zillow was the one appreciating the market. Now, I'm going to explain it to you the way I see it. Zillow has more marketing data or market data than I do at the bank. They have more market data than the National Association of Realtors. Every listing, every independent listing, every FSBO, every rental, you name it, goes through Zillow. And out of the blue, one of their highest producing funnels, by the way, they were averaging between 5 to 20% per market. Literally one day they just woke up and went, oh, we bought too much. We got to sell everything off and we got to get out of Dodge because we're just a bunch of fucking idiots and we don't know what's going on with the market. Sorry for the F-bomb. I'm trying to, hopefully by the next hour, Derek, I'll have that worked out. I don't know what happens when I put on the suit. I just become too much of a banker. So here's your choice about the Zillow thing. Does Zillow know something you don't know? And most of real estate. Is it a ship full of fools who overbought and then laid off 25% of its staff? Or the way I see it, because I'm going to give you evidence to support it, which is, hey, let's stop doing that. Let's sell off what we have. Let's lay off our workforce. Let's go into hibernation mode and let the market do what it's about to do, because we're showing month over month over month in the markets that we're buying houses in depreciation. Got it? That's what they're looking at. And would you like more evidence to support that particular claim? Well, here you go. Here's Wells.
Customers expressing outrage this morning after the bank informed them it is ending all existing personal lines of credit in the coming weeks and will no longer offer the product. The revolving credit lines typically let users borrow $3,000 to $100,000. They were pitched as a way to consolidate higher interest credit card debt, pay for home renovations, or avoid overdraft fees on linked checking accounts. In letters to customers, the bank said it reviewed its product offerings, decided to discontinue the product, and close all existing accounts. It warned customers that the account closures may have an impact on their credit scores. Customers were given a 60-day notice that their accounts would be closed, and remaining balances would require regular minimum payments at a fixed rate. Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeting, "Not a single Wells Fargo customer should see their credit score suffer just because their bank is restructuring after years of scams and incompetence. Sending out a warning notice simply isn't good enough. Wells Fargo needs to
said about Zillow.
This right." It does seem like it's a little bit unfair to these customers.
Yes, it seems unfair that a
doing
private
of their
institution
own
would
to have
stop
their
lending on
credit
equity.
dinged.
Wells Fargo, is there a bank that fell from grace more quickly than that? Remember, it was Warren Buffett. It was like they could do no wrong for so long. You know, and then, okay, so you create a couple accounts to pad your...
Just a couple.
that was...
Force insurance sales on people who don't have a car.
Right, no, yeah, they lost their way. And you know, they go through CEOs like fairly quickly.
Right, but it's a turnaround story at this point.
Yeah.
Shepard Smith here.
There you go.
Expressing outrage this morning after the bank informed them.
There you guys go. Now, you can form your own opinion. Zillow could be full of idiots. Wells Fargo, another billion-dollar corporation, could be full of idiots. Or perhaps they have market data that we're unaware of, and this is only a few months ago. Which takes us to the next question, which is, well, what does Black Knight say? They're the only ones keeping track of the data. And I want you to look at all three of these lines. And you may pick whichever line you want to work with. The one that's most telling to me is this little dark green line, which is 90 plus days. This list does not include forbearances. We'll cover that in just a second. At this moment, there are 1.5 million people, right, that are 91 plus days delinquent. That's more than before the pandemic. We were only at about 400,000 plus or minus. There are always people who don't pay, right? That's what my students have been working on up until that point. Then the pandemic hit, and then this, whatever this is, started, right? I think the number that I'm really concerned with on this list is the gray line. The total number of delinquencies in the United States is about 2.4 million people at this moment. Now, the number I told you to focus on is 91 plus. 91, if you're going to pick any number out of the pile that I hand you right now, okay, you're at just under 1.5 million people, right? So that's what? 1.2 million people that are going to transfer title at this point. Now, here's what you need to ask yourself. There are only 400,000 active listings in the United States at any given moment, plus or minus. It's never really gone up or down. And 1.2 million people are going to be transferring title. Is it a good opportunity to start working with people who've missed payments that have equity in a market that is showing signs of depreciating? Does that make sense to everybody? So the question next goes to, how many people have done forbearance plans? Well, good question. There are approximately 1 million of them. Now, if we add 1 million, because you're going to be marked as 91 plus days delinquent when the FICO system gets turned back on, which has not yet been done because nobody can figure out how to do it without showing 3 million plus people. I mean, let's just go with the 2.5, what is this? 2.5 plus another million. That's 3.5 million people slamming into the FICO system when they turn it back on, showing delinquencies. I'll say it again. A forbearance is a default. It's in their paperwork. People don't know that. You have to pay back that amount. You had to pay it back about a month ago already to not have it affect your credit when they turn credit back on. And what I figure in this fourth quarter, people are doctoring their numbers and trying to figure out how to rearrange it on their books to make this all look good. So what do we have at this point based on the data that I provided for you? Well, 6 out of 10 people, regular, I can get a conventional loan people have said, I'm not going to buy because now's not the right time. We've shown depreciation in the market for 3 straight months. We've shown that people have stopped relocating at such a zesty number that they did previously. 2 of the largest people who deal with real estate assets have decided to listen to their asset management department or their retained asset manager like me, who said, depreciation, people aren't buying, prices are too high. We're pretty much on a straight line depreciation course. It could come off as a correction. It could come off as a crash. But whatever the case, whatever we've done since the pandemic, those days are over. Got it? So now you got another million people that are in a forbearance plan of some kind, right? That's bad. Those people are going to be considered defaulted as well. And again, we're looking for opportunities for listings and deals. If you're an investor, you want to deal. If you're a real estate agent, you're looking for listings, right? Which takes us to our final number, which is what does the default rate look like historically? All right, at the peak of the market, it was 9.3%. During the pandemic, we got as high as 8.22. I'm going to say it again. This number does not include forbearance agreements. And if we go back and check the records, and you can Google this, Wells, Chase, and B of A said 10% of their portfolio was non-performing. Now, they're showing a decrease of 3% of delinquency since the pandemic started in 2020, right? So that still puts us at 5.47. The number that they're leaving out, which is 2006 and 7, we didn't get to 5.47 till the end of 2007. At this moment, based on the number of delinquencies, we have 1 million people more that have missed payments than in 2007. And then within a 3-year period, it spiked up to 9.3%. Why is that? Well, if I bought at the top of the market, based on our prices and our rapid 1-year appreciation and the downright fervor that people bought, including investors, how long does depreciation have to happen before you as an investor with an asset want to sell that house? Or if you're a homeowner, strategically default and short sale your house.